It was a very unique show in the end, and they smashed a home run with this. I give it a 9 out of 10, and I don't have many Disney Plus shows that really hit that besides some of the other like early heavy hitters. But if this was a tier rank, I mean, I'm putting it right up there with WandaVision and Loki for sure.
Everybody, welcome back to another episode here on the Point Three Podcast. We are your favorite trio of hosts, myself, Hero Scroll, Spider Brando, and Lou, coming at you today with the Wonder Man review, the newest Disney Plus series that came out this week as a time of recording 2 days ago. All 8 episodes are now streaming. Go check it out for yourself if you haven't. But just a fair warning, we are going to be talking spoilers in general. So if that's not something you want to hear, make sure you subscribe to us. Either way, come back or stay. Get ready for the conversation. Gentlemen, though, Wonder Man, something I think not a lot of people were excited for, and I dare say, including even ourselves. But now that we've seen all 8 episodes, SB, starting off with you, what did you think about Wonder Man?
I thought it was amazing. Drops on Tuesday at like 9 p.m. All 8 episodes, and stayed up till 1:30 to finish binging it, and it was phenomenal. I thought we were all kind of questioning why it was just going to be dropped all at once, but it worked out for the better. I think looking back at it, because I'm very happy I had that experience to go through that watch party and binge it all after like episode 2. Honestly, even after the first episode, I was like, starting 2 immediately. After episode 2, I'm like, we're starting 3 immediately. And it was just so easily bingeable. But that being said, very, very well done show that made it easy to watch. And I really, really liked Yaya's. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Um, portrayal of Simon and Wonder Man. And I kind of just got like attached to the character. Seeing Trevor back was awesome and actually had a pretty cool story throughout this. And it was just kind of like a nice little bit of like a buddy duo type thing they had going on, which worked out very, very well. And episode 3, I just watched a couple scenes from there today, just to look back at something that hit me. Episode 3, when Trevor and the mom were talking, that was deep. That was pretty deep and one of my favorite parts of the season. But overall, very, 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 very good show, and I would say it's a solid 8.5 out of 10.
High rating, high praise. And again, I think all of us were probably not super excited about it, but Lou, I know you had done probably the most research on Wonder Man, I think, out of the three of us. So you had a little more kind of knowledge going into it. Having that and then seeing the show, how did you feel?
I will say the process of knowing that this show is delayed, and typically when something, especially like a Disney Plus Marvel show gets delayed, that like lowers its status. And I think with that lowers expectations of like what is the show going to bring, not only just to the MCU, but for me as someone who's taking the time to watch this. And to SB, to your point, like before the show dropped and we heard, all 8 episodes are going to come out at once, and the show comes out at 9 p.m., you're like, so am I really going to stay up and watch this into the morning? Like, I don't know. I don't know. But knowing that the show grabbed, I think, all of us in the way that it did, and it felt very honest and sincere, it's wild to think about that was so true to how the marketing in the actors and the cast were talking about this show, especially Destin Daniel Cretton and Andrew Guest. It just felt like everything was so calm and reserved and wholesome as they were talking about just the passion that went into the show. And I think it was a couple weeks ago when Brad Winderbaum was talking about this on the official Marvel podcast of just the ideas that they had of like, hey, we wanted to do a Trevor story and hey, we wanted to do a Simon story. Let's put the two together and make some magic. And I really think they did. Like everything came together so perfectly to, again, on paper, this show really shouldn't have succeeded on paper the way that it did. It really came down to the execution of the character, but like kudos to the team for the casting. Kudos for deciding to make Hollywood, like kudos to them for taking that story from beginning to end and not apologizing about it and trying to tweak it to make it this big superhero spectacle type of thing to be like, ooh, the Flash is going to be, not the Flash character, but like the way that they present it to us needs to be superhero-ish. Like this still very much was a superhero show. It was still presented in an adjacent MCU. But overall, though, I have to say my biggest thing that has stuck with me is just the concept of relationship and the friendship that Simon and Trevor had because they needed each other and they stumbled upon each other for whether it be calculated from Trevor's point of view or not. Because the whole thing with the DODC, like just the way that they built their relationship and ultimately led you to the end to be like, at some point it's going to be out there and someone's going to be heartbroken. And that's going to make me feel heartbroken. And you knew when it was coming. You're like, I don't want to see the breakup. I don't want to see the breakup. I don't want to see the breakup. And you're like, shoot, here it is. And like this show just made you feel so many things. And it was stupid relatable. We'll get into some other stuff, but I think it was a very unique show in the end. And they smashed a home run with this. I give it a 9 out of 10. And I don't have many Disney Plus shows that really hit that besides some of the other like early heavy hitters. But if this was a tier rank, I mean, I'm putting it right up there with WandaVision and Loki for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to agree with you guys. Going into it, I didn't think I was going to like it at all, really. I wanted to give it a shot because it's Marvel and deep down we are all Marvel fans and we're going to give anything a shot. But I really kind of just went in and thought, oh, I'll probably enjoy it, but not love it. But no, I came out of it and I am like, even today, I've still been thinking about it so much. Just so much of it sticks with you because despite it being very much a superhero story, it's still a very human one. And I think in a lot of ways relatable because I think sometimes what may have happened was part of the marketing and Daniel Desencrentin did say, you'll feel something with, Simon Williams and you'll relate to him and Trevor. And you might hear that and you're like, well, how? I don't, they're actors. I might not want to do that. But if you're somebody that you've been trying to make something work for a while now in many different aspects of your life, be it relationships, be it your career, be it family life, when you fail at that aspect over and over and over again, it gets to you. And then you see this portrayed here and how sometimes all it takes is just one thing. It feels relatable. And the limits that will go to for everybody in between, like it just feels really nice. And I think it's been a very long time, at least from the Marvel side of things, that I think we've gotten a show or a series that can just give you a good friendship and show you that sometimes people can just care for each other without wanting anything and without any other motive in a way, right? And obviously that the Trevor thing comes up into it, but like you do see that he does care and have a love for Simon, so much so that he goes back to being the Mandarin at the end. And guys, I don't think I ever had Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery potentially making me cry in my list of things that would ever happen.
Not on the 2026 bingo card.
No,
No.
never did I think I would feel like this lump in my throat when I saw him appear as the Mandarin. Because as soon as that happens, you know instantly what he's doing for Simon and what that means for him. And the whole show, they've tried to show you how Trevor has tried to get away from that constantly. It was just beautifully done. A story of redemption, of how you can be better despite your circumstances and the things you've done. 9 out of 10. No notes. I mean, maybe the only reason I don't give it a 10 out of 10 is because I just need to watch it again. But I loved it. I loved everything about it.
Yeah, and I think going back through, people may look at this show, and I think there is a little asterisk next to this of like, oh, it's why isn't it a 10 out of 10? You're saying it could be the best of the best. There's certain things like in a way, it is kind of a 10 out of 10 for me. But when I compare it, and I have to compare it to other shows, there are some things that I wish that I could have seen in this that I think they could have done in this. But again, I think the way that this was executed was perfect. Like I don't have, you look at like a Fantastic Four or Thunderbolts most recently, and you're like, man, you could have definitely moved this chess piece to this side of the board, and the movie would have been exponentially better in certain ways. This, I mean, the story is like you just don't touch the story. The story was great, but there is something inside of me though that is kind of undeniable, and I think that circulates around the powers. And not to get into like the mutant stuff or anything, that's not where I'm going with this, but just how interesting and unique the powers were used. But I do think that I did feel a little contradiction. And again, this could just be me maybe not understanding it as well as I think I did, but just of like, did he have control over the powers? Did he not have control? Because I got like when he first signed up for the Wonder Man audition, and the guy's like, "You don't have superpowers, right?" And blah 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 blah. And you see, him and his girlfriend and at his house, and there's the rumblings and the bumblings, and it's like, is he doing that, or is it kind of a passive thing that's just kind of a byproduct of, hey, when I get more angry, my powers are a little more uncontrollable, right? That temper, that anger inside of him. Um, but then you take that, and then you go to when Trevor's past kind of comes up, and there's those gangster dudes who kind of roll up on him, and they're like, "Yo, like you owe me money," kind of thing, right? And Simon kind of does a little bit of his thing. It felt very like underwhelming in a way for that to be the bigger power fight scene, where it's just more like, I know I'm strong enough and I'll throw people around, but I don't really want to hurt anyone, and I'm like uncharmed. To then ultimately getting to the end of the show, and my guy's like, I'm busting you out of here. Guess what? I can fly. No problem. I'm out. Let's go. And we could fill some gaps, but for me, like the power piece of it, I loved how his powers felt used in the show and how they were a part of the story. But for the superhero power display portion of it, I felt like there was a little bit, left on the table for me.
I think there was two in a way. I think it's to your point. It was very much a choice though, because I think if the more you use it, the more it would probably take away from the story aspects
Sure.
of it. And so I think it's kind of the sacrifice they had to make. But I can definitely see why that feels that way because it does feel like we kind of jump pretty quickly in terms of how well he's using them. But I think if they explained it too much or went into too much detail, it would take away from some of the other beats of the story.
I'm curious this question for you, SB. Do you feel like to your point, do you feel like they intentionally shied away from exploring his powers and they kind of danced around it in how they presented it with like Cleary from Damage Control to the brother and everyone knowing the fire and like his conversations with his dad and the way that he would do things? Like, did that feel good for you, or do you feel like they did a good job of establishing and then kind of keeping the powers at bay to not distract from the story?
I liked what they did because it was it is technically a Marvel spotlight, so it was kind of cool to just learn about Simon and the character before he goes on to like become the super side of it. Um, and it felt kind of like refreshing to get like a project like that instead of all superhero stuff that we always get in every other Marvel project. So I thought it was pretty well done. But if we ever see him in like a movie or another TV show, I'm really excited to see what they could pull off with this power set and like with a bigger budget. But I thought everything in here was pretty well done when it came to it.
Yeah.
I'd agree. I think it was very tight in terms of what they were trying to tell with that. And I think it goes against a lot of the other things that we see in terms of many other Marvel movies and superhero things in general, where like before you really care about the character, they're like, look how cool they are. Look what they could do. And I think of like, for example, probably like something like Moon Knight, where the first episode you're like, oh, look at the cool suit, look at him fight this werewolf thing. Oh man, it's sick. Then you start learning a lot more about the character. But this was like, no, this is Simon Williams as a man. This is who he is. And then at the end, that's when it feels more validating in a way for him, which is nice.
Go ahead.
I'm so happy. I was just like, once they had the whole movie thing and like they showed the actual Wonder Man movie, I was just the show was such a cool roller coaster of emotions as it was being binged. I was staring at the screen like 2 centimeters away from it versus like sobbing at the same time, and just the biggest smile on my face seeing him with the Wonder Man glasses in the
Yes.
theater and
Yeah.
like watching it. And I'm like, this feels great as an ending and just kind of like as a show.
Dude, it's so wild to still be able to connect and get immersed into a show to where the actors are actors acting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
even when
that's
they were in
true.
Von Kovacs' house and he messed up when they were doing kind of like the random role play, and I was like, oh shoot. And then he couldn't do his thing with Trevor, and I was like, oh shoot. Cause like at that point, I mean, that was what, a day or so after the dinner where the whole production crew like got him together and they're like, hey, you can do this. And then like Trevor's like, no. And he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna do whatever Trevor says. Like whatever Trevor says, that's what I'm doing. And I was like, okay, like you're leaning heavy on man. And then they get into like the final callback at Von Kovacs, and they're like, no, you can't be with him. And he goofs, and he legitimately goofs. And I'm so glad that they did that to where like he didn't succeed without him. He failed without him. And he had to like channel like that depth that they kept going and kept going and kept going. It pulled out like the real version of him by the end. And I think a lot of shows stop short to give you more gratification sooner so that you don't, you know what I mean? Like you kind of like, can I keep the audience hooked by just like baiting this in front of them? And I think that like I followed the cookie trail the whole way through. The whole way through to ultimately when you get to the end and bro, they do it. They're just like, screw it. We have one shot. Let's just go. Let's roll. You be Wonder Man, I'm Barnaby, and let's do it. And then it worked. Like it was so satisfying to see.
It is, and I think from what I've seen, a bigger complaint from certain people, not everybody, but from some people on the internet, is that there's like a lack of stakes for them on the show.
Oh no.
But I feel like this was the stakes, and it felt big. It felt personal. Again, once you're so invested in Simon, it's like, no, he has to get this, because if he doesn't, then like you would feel the heartbreak for him as a character, because we know what this means for him. So like I think the stakes are still there, and I think it adds so much to it when, to your point, Lou, when he's messing up without Trevor, when he's not able to control himself in the dream, where I genuinely thought he killed the one actor for a minute before they
Crap
revealed.
out of me. I can't lie.
I did
I was
too.
like, there's no way Marvel just did that.
It's
Yeah.
like, no.
I was scared, because I'm like, oh my god, Simon, no. How are you going to get out of this? And then they showed he woke up, but like it was those nice fake out moments that like it really shows, no, you care about Simon
That was a
as
test.
a character.
Yeah.
And if you didn't react, then you didn't care about Simon. And
Yeah.
I think most everybody did. When I think everybody let out a collective like sigh of relief, like, oh, it's okay. It was a dream.
In to that point too, I think a big underrated thing is even from the very first episode, and this is a very relatable thing for me specifically too, of like being an overthinker and trying to over prepare, and then you get into it and you just overwhelm people to the point where they're like, I would much rather lie to your face to get you out of here than to have you like, I don't care how much you know, like you're just suffocating. Like you're just suffocating and you're negative. Like, no, like you're the freaking D-list actor that we brought in that needs to lay on the floor in blood. Like, no, I don't care about what book you need as a teacher. Like, doesn't matter. Like, just lay in some blood. And like you saw the stakes for Simon being built up. And I think at that point, like, he was so fragile that if he didn't get the Wonder Man thing, very much could have seen him just being like, I'm giving up on my dream. And that alone for me is like, that's huge. Like, even look at the podcast and stuff that we're doing now. Like, you have to wade through so much crap. And if you keep going, eventually, maybe you'll get to where it is that you want to go. And I thought that in itself are huge stakes to get to the point where it's like you're at almost a defining point in your career. If you don't get this, you may never get another shot. Sometimes there is just one chance. And for him to blow it there at the house, and then to your point, you get the secondary test to the whole like head punch scene. I don't know, but the cool thing about Simon though is that he's willing to take like a chance, like he did with what's her face with the email, and then call the girl on the phone as he's driving. He's like, "Oh, girl," blah, blah, blah. Like, get Simon. Like, I thought that was so cool. Like, it didn't feel desperate, but it felt like a go getter. I'm gonna make it happen. I need to make it happen, and I'm going to make it happen.
It's gonna be me getting us invited to the Spider-Man 4 premiere.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Just know we'll be there, guys. But one last thing I did want to say to that though, Joey Pants's house, I think is one of the most underrated moments of the entire show.
Absolutely.
So where he is in a celebrity's house with someone who's in the know, and he's like, "You're being wrong to my friend. Screw yourself. We're out. I don't care if I need to do this audition tape. I'm not doing it here. Like, my friendship is more important than being cool for you, Mr. Nobody. I'm out." I thought that was awesome. Like, literally, I started clapping and I was like, let's go.
Yeah. I don't see enough people talk about that because it does come very early on, but it's like it's such a big moment because you really think about it. Like, he isn't a person who has it made, who has it done, and realistically who could probably help his career a lot more than Trevor could.
Mm-hmm.
But he straight up tells this man, "You suck," is what he tells him. Like, you're full of it and you suck. Let's get out of here, Trev. And it's like, that's career suicide.
Yeah.
That's you just ended your own career by doing that. But for him, it's like, I don't care about that. Like, I care about standing up for the people I care about. And it pays off for him so well with him and Trevor. And again, their chemistry together is honestly insane. And I was reading a few interviews, and it seemed like that chemistry was also off screen.
Yeah.
Between him and Ben Kingsley. So seeing, and you can tell by how well they played off each other. Like,
yeah,
and great performance by both of them. And like, if they don't win some kind of award, it'll be criminal. Because I've always thought that everything Yahya has been in, he's always been the one to steal the show. And then Ben Kingsley is obviously Ben Kingsley. So if they don't win something, it will be a shame.
Yeah, I agree. The chemistry portion of this was definitely the best. And again, that's one of those things is you kind of looked at the interviews and stuff and just how Ben Kingsley was talking about Yahya and vice versa. And I don't know. I mean, I might be making this up, but there obviously is power in being successful in a Marvel project. And I still think it's on a lot of people's list as an actor. Like, you hear people talk about it all the time. Like, I think of that Kamal Nanjiani or whatever his name is talk about like the Eternal stuff where he's like, yeah, I thought I was going to be in like 6 Marvel movies. Like, I didn't have to look for other jobs. Like, I could do other stuff. And then when it falls flat, like, a lot of us as fans were just like, oh, well, didn't work out. But like, those are career-changing things when you're a part of Marvel movies. Hello, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Chris Hemsworth. It's not like you guys are, in any other like real bangers outside of MCU. But for Yahya to be the hero and the main character and not be the villain or the angry black guy, I think it's super cool to see like this being a positive check mark on his IMDb and his resume. And Ben Kingsley to really have, that full redemption arc of like, people hated him because he was the fake Mandarin. I remember I was so mad that he wasn't the real Mandarin. I was furious. And I was like, you swerve me like this, Iron Man, you suck. And then to come back in Shang-Chi, and I'm like, bro, why'd they bring this bum back? Like, come on, dude. Like, when he went in the basement, I saw him, and I was like, please no. And then you have a CGI, like, mythical dog. Please stop. Into the Razor Fist car scenes. Like, I was like, gosh, get me out of here. It's one of my least favorite things when I rewatch Shang-Chi. But I promise you, when I go back and rewatch Iron Butt 3 and Shang-Chi, I will smile seeing Trevor on screen.
Yeah. It's crazy to say that in 2026 that again Trevor Slattery is going to be a favorite MCU character. And like for the haters that are like, oh, this is a stupid show, I will never like it. If you give this show a chance and like are someone who will give this show an honest chance, I don't see how you don't fall in love with Trevor. I really don't. And I don't see how people aren't going to clamor for a season 2 so we can see their story continued. And if, big if, there's a Shang-Chi 2 and Trevor's in it, the world is going to clap and cheer.
I'll put him in Spidey.
I'm down.
Dude, real quick. If you're still someone and you've gotten this far in the video, 1, appreciate you, subscribe. But 2, there is no way in my mind that you can sit here and look at the chemistry that Simon and Trevor have and be like, you haven't had those moments with one of your buddies. It was something I thought of with us. And I can go back to the whole thing of like, well, around the New 52 time, dude, we're just sitting here laughing about stuff, but like we have our jokes, like our nerdy superhero jokes, just like they were nerding about theater and like, oh shoot, okay, like ball. And and like you start throwing stuff around like that and like seeing that in this, I don't know if we've gotten that in another show. Probably besides, and this is just off the top of my head, I haven't felt this way since probably Cap and Cap's relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm saying Cap and Cap, by the way. But they're probably like the most wholesome, genuine friendship of like you just randomly stumbled upon each other and like vibed. Like that is very cool. Very, very cool.
I hope we get it with Yelena and Kate Bishop one day. But they're the only one. They had a pretty cool chemistry.
They did.
But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
Enough to get a 92%, but yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. No, Wonder Man, what a show you are. Again, we all three of us absolutely loved it and can't recommend it enough to everybody. So if you haven't watched it, please genuinely go watch it. We don't do the show justice, and even though we did talk about some big spoiler moments, there's a lot of stuff that happens in between that we didn't get into. Doorman, Josh Gad,
Ding Dong,
his brother, his mother. Like there's so many story beats that feel good that are still very emotional. Honestly, very funny as well. Like genuinely a funny show that doesn't like try too hard to be funny. It just is. So again, go watch it if you haven't. We have our theories.
Oh,
we have our theories. Don't you worry. But this is not the video for that. We will get to it. So everybody, you know what you have to do. You have to subscribe to us so you can be here for it. Because that's what we're going to be talking about next time. But until then, Spider Brando. So people don't have to wonder what they have to do until then.
Yeah, man.
What are the 3 most important things to do?
You gotta keep reading Wonder Man, keep watching Wonder Man, and keep nerding out about Wonder Man after you've read and watched.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining, and we'll catch you in the next one.